This is going to be a quick tutorial on how to install parking brakes on Dodge Chargers 2015 through 2023 models. This is a SXT specifically. Firstly, we're going to be taking off the wheel. All right, I use the breaker bar to loosen my lug nuts, and when I'm working on the rear, instead of jacking up from the frame, I like to jack up from these rubber jack points right there. I'll remove the tire. Now we're going to remove the top of the caliper. We're going to use a 19mm wrench, place it here, and a 15mm socket on this bolt. And you're gonna hold your wrench and use your ratchet to loosen this top bolt. And you're gonna do the same thing on the bottom right there. Those removed, we can take off the top of the brake caliper, and you're just gonna place it up here on your suspension. Don't let it dangle, putting stress on your brake lines. Now using a 18mm socket, we're gonna remove these two bolts on the back of the caliper. Now you can remove the bottom piece of the caliper. Now you're gonna remove the rotor. Sometimes the parking brake will rust to the inside of your rotor if you can't just slide it off like I can with mine. So you'll want to take a rubber mallet and smack the back of it on the rotor. Not this metal plate right here, but for me, these are new, so they're just gonna slide right off. And here's the old pads compared to the new ones. And this bottom one is, well, non-existent. All right, now we're gonna remove these pins and metal brackets, and how you do that is you're gonna take a flathead screwdriver, press down like that, and then you can use another screwdriver. I'm using a tool like this. I'm gonna put it behind the metal bracket and then push forward so the head of that pin goes into the bigger hole, and then you can remove the bracket. Remove this top one. And this bottom one as well. Now using some needle nose pliers, you remove this spring next to this piece right here, and I'm just gonna grab it and pull it out of the hole. Now we can remove this adjustment piece. With those pieces removed, you should be able to just pull the rest of it apart. There's also this spring holding it on the other side, and then this piece right here is wedged between the pads. So I ordered new pads and new hardware, and I also ordered a new one of these pieces, but I think the only way you can take this out to replace it is by removing your wheel hub, and I'm not going to be doing that today. So I'm just gonna clean these off and then re-lube their joint piece so it can still pivot on the inside smoothly. But now that I got all that removed, I'm just gonna take a brass wire brush and scrub off this brake dust and rust to create a cleaner surface. After some brushing, now we're gonna just hit it with some brake cleaner. Make sure you get off that one piece right there really good. My hardware came with some of this silicone lubricant, and I'm gonna apply some on this piece right here. And there's a little joint right here. So I'm just gonna rub the lubricant inside this crevice all around that joint right there. Now we'll begin to install the new parking brakes. So got this new hardware piece. It's a little bit different from the old one. It's got like a flat head instead, but this top one you can see the hole from the back. You can just slide it right through like that. The bottom one you can't see from the back, so I'm just gonna leave the old one in place. And then the new top pad will go on like so, with this wider slit facing towards the rear of the car, and that's the hole this piece will go through. We'll put the new bracket over it. All right, got the bracket on, and then how I went about it was I held that pin from the back with my finger to push it out all the way. Then I used these pliers and I grabbed onto it like so. It was facing the other way like that. And then once I had it grabbed on with my pliers, I used this flathead screwdriver. I pushed down on the tab, and then I was able to pull it forward in the middle in that crevice and then turn it so it locked into place. If you're just using your old hardware, you would just pretty much reverse what we did before. Push down on it and then pull it through the bigger end. I guess it would be like this. Pull it through the bigger end, push down, and then slide into the smaller end. Now we're gonna put the bottom pad on, and same like the top, we want the wide hole to be aligned with that pin. The bottom bracket on, and how I did it, I just held the brake pad with one hand, used my other hand to use my flathead to compress the bracket down on this end, and then I just slid this through the big hole and then nudged it over into the smaller side. Make sure the top pad is aligned with that piece and this little divot right there, and the bottom pad as well is aligned in the divot for this piece right there. And then in terms of positioning the pads themselves, you don't want them over this lip, you want them on the lip, flush with it. It's like that all the way around. But when you're installing the hardware, you'll probably have to keep readjusting these back like that. With this adjusting piece, you're just gonna, if you have a new one like me, you're just gonna screw this gear all the way up. And I just did it, positioned it to the third thread down. You can use your old one as reference, and that's just how I'm doing it. If you notice, if you count the threads, 1, 2, and then it's screwed to the third thread down. And that's where I'm gonna have mine positioned. If you don't have it positioned correctly, it should self-adjust itself after driving for a little while. All right, we got that set into place. And then you can see on the pads, it just has grooves in the piece that you just set it on in between the pads, and then you want the adjustable piece, the gear facing up. So I'm gonna be installing the smaller spring. There's 2 springs, you got your big one and then your smaller one. And then the smaller one goes next to the gear piece, and you're gonna put it in this hole and this hole. But I'm gonna put it in, hook it in from the bottom, and then use my needle nose pliers and then pull up into the top hole. And you can see the gear just rests on the spring like so. Now we're gonna put in the bigger spring, and it's placed on the opposite side, and we're gonna hook it into this bottom hole, and then same thing, using our needle nose pliers, we're gonna decompress it, stretch it out, and then hook it into that top hole right there. This spring's a little bit more difficult to get in compared to the small one, so it might take you a few tries, but got ours all hooked in. And I find it helps to use one of my hands to compress this top pad down while I'm gripping onto the top part of the spring and pulling up on it to slide it into the hole. I just found that this top pad would keep popping up over this lip, making it a little too far of distance for me to be able to pull it up into the hole. But after we got all the hardware in, we're just gonna double check, make sure the pads are flush around that lip and not going over it. Now we're just gonna put everything back together. You're gonna put the bottom of your caliper back on and tighten down your two 18mm bolts. Make sure they're nice and firm. And since we have this apart, I'm just gonna go ahead and re-lube my brakes. So put a little bit of synthetic brake lube on the brake pads. I'm just gonna put those back into place. I'm gonna lube the sliding pieces, and there's rubber couplers on these, and my advice for taking these out without ripping these, just pull up a little bit and then just kind of twist it and then pull out the rest of the way. All right, we got this one re-lubed and this one as well. Now you're gonna put the top of your caliper back on, and using your 19mm wrench and 15mm socket, you're gonna tighten both of these bolts down. Put your wheel back on. If this video helped you out, like and subscribe. If you have any questions, leave a comment below.